A very good morning. Welcome to this edition of Morning at NTV's Big Story. It's the 5th day of January 2017. And yes, we're upbeat as always, starting the year and putting everything in perspective. As the year came to a close, government came up with one of the usual brilliant eureka moments. They thought that citizens were not directly in touch with the government in as far as monitoring government projects is concerned, sharing their plight, or even giving kudos where work has been done incredibly well. And so what did they do? They came up with what we call the Government Citizen Interaction Center. And we're asking ourselves, Government Citizen Interaction Center. We thought government and citizens interact almost every single day on different platforms, media and all that. But this time around, a special office is created in government, and yes, it's handed over to the usual amiable Morrison Rwakakamba to head, but we're trying to wrap our heads around what this center is up to, how it will operate, and to what extent it will trickle down to interact with the citizens. Is it going down up to the village level, or is it going to stop in the usual capitals and big cities where all this talk normally takes place? That is the conversation we're having on the Big Story this morning. Stay with us. Rwakakamba, very smart, and happy to see you in this new year in this tingly red necktie. How do you manage to put up this kind of dopper look for a government official?
No, thank you, Simon, and good morning, the viewers of NTV.
Government
Happy New Year.
Citizen Interaction Center.
Yes.
That's what you're heading. What is this?
The Government Citizen Interaction Center is essentially a program that is going to be linking citizens directly with government and through different mechanisms. The first one is through the voice. Now citizens for the first time can call for free government using toll-free code 900.
When they call that number, who picks it up? Museveni?
Well, they are what we call government communication agents. Who speak, all various, languages, have that linguistic capability. So they are able to pick up. You can ask about a water service, you can ask about education service, you can ask about, inputs related issues. And people will have, if we cannot answer at that same time, then they will escalate and get back to you.
Wait a minute. So
yes.
Let's bring this closer.
Yes.
There's an old man, maybe my chairman in Bugangari called Banjiran.
Yes.
He is not happy with the way Bugangari Health Center is performing with regard to the absence of some key drugs if he needs them.
Yes.
So would Banjana pick up the call?
Yes.
Call that number, and you, from wherever you are answering this call from, be able to know whether National Medical Stores has actually sent drugs to Bugangari Health Center?
I mean, you see there is, in some instances, we have some instant answers where we have, because we operate a knowledge base, where most government departments, ministries, departments send in information. So we have this warehouse, information or knowledge warehouse. So where we have direct information, we provide it instantly. Where we don't have it, then we have what we call an escalation mechanism, where we contact the National Medical Stores and say, there is no this particular medicine in Bugangari Health Center. And then we get back with the clarification. Then we cross the case, we cross the query.
In how long would you be able to answer to a citizen's question, query, or even comment?
We try to really do it immediately, that same day. But if we can't, we still
immediately that same day. Morrison, please. The word immediately means pronto.
I said we can do it immediately because there are different levels, or at least try to cross the case in one day. And if we can't in one day, but we make sure we get back to the citizen who called to inform that citizen that we are working on the case and we hope to close it by a certain particular time. But I also wanted to mention that it's not just a voice. Code 900 also provide mechanism for SMS platform where people can even send SMS or we respond to those citizens via SMS. But also 3 is that we are also digitally integrated, that we use platforms like Twitter, like email, like WhatsApp to make sure that we send out messages but also provide feedback by using those platforms.
Morrison, let me get this right.
Yeah.
So are you saying, like, when I have a problem with my MTN service, I call their toll-free customer service line?
Yes.
Are you saying that what you heard now is akin to a toll-free customer service platform on which
we look at citizens as really not just customers per se, but really citizens, but we treat them as customers in that very sense. But like I also mentioned, we are also a knowledge base that provides information.
So if I'm a reporter
Yes.
somewhere and I need some information on this oil cash bonanza, if I call that line, you are able to tell me who received how much money and all that, and possibly even provide me with the documents to prove it. Right?
I mean, the other point is that we are an institution.
No.
We are an institution that tries a lot to remove the dark curtain veil of secrecy in government. We're trying to make government more open. As you have witnessed of recent, we have been giving citizen information on the money that government sends up to the village level. If a health center is in Bugangari and it received 100 million or 30 or 40 million for a first quarter, we say, hey, you're a citizen from Bugangari, government this quarter sent you this money. Make sure that service delivery is happening. We have been liberating a lot of information for Agago district, up to the village level, the money that the government sent in the last quarter. So beyond this feedback platform where we engage citizens who have queries, but we also provide information in order to make government much more open and accessible.
Isn't that therefore a duplication of roles by the different communication departments of government? But also importantly, we have a government media center. How different are you from them, or are you usurping their role
Absolutely.
or putting them somewhere under your armpit?
No, absolutely not. We play a complementary role. And the role of the media center is to really provide a platform for the media.
Wait a minute. The role of the media center largely is to keep the black curtain of secrecy around government, to defend the government against the prying eye of the citizens. You, on the other hand, are saying you want to remove that curtain.
We are not
Aren't
in
you
the
going to find
business.
yourself
We are not in the business of defending government, but we are in the business of providing
exposing
information.
government.
Not exposing, but making government more open,
If
such
you-
that
yeah,
people
if you-
can interact with it.
If you want to make
Okay?
my shirt
But
more
also
open,
too-
you are exposing.
But also, too, it's not exposing. I mean,
Why you try
an
to-
accountable government is open government.
It's
Where
an exposed government.
I mean, the word exposed, comes with those other inclinations. It's not
No.
about exposing. It is, openness. It is accountability. It is transparency. But then too, because we are a knowledge base, we provide all these other platforms like Media Center and other channels to get out the information from government. So we provide a supplementary role because we have this knowledge warehouse, and the media center has all these other
You're talking
channels.
about you're talking about
Yeah.
an information warehouse.
Yeah.
You're talking about data miners. You're talking about we.
Yes.
Break it down for me. What's the structure of this government citizen interaction center? Actually, for us, when this was announced, and we were told Rwakakamba is heading it, he was previously a presidential assistant for research, if my memory serves me right. He's with the Ministry of Information and ICT, and as maybe as an advisor. So is it you as Morrison, or do you have a structure? And if so, what's the structure like?
Well, first of all, I need to first be clear that the president seconded me to head the GCIC. So I still retain the position of a presidential nominee, but also I still retain my job. So this is an additional.
So you have your role.
This is an additional role, an assignment to really get the GCIC going. So we have a team of communication agents who are trained in different languages as part of the structure, who are dealing with the voice.
How many are we talking about here now?
We also have data miners and knowledge intermediaries, people who go into, for instance, the database of the Uganda National Bureau of Statistics, pick out all these numbers, transform them into messaging and formats that citizens can quickly interact with, or into formats that can be shared across platforms, whether it is Twitter, whether it is Facebook, or whether it is WhatsApp. Digitally driven information.
Or you also put banners and billboards.
So we are essentially digitally driven, but also voice, but also USSD code,
when you
which
say
is the
digitally driven,
SMS.
in a country where the digital proliferation is still wanting, we have not yet hit the 50% mark, I want to believe.
Yes.
Don't be mistaken by these noisy weaver birds on Twitter and you think that that's the whole of Uganda. Like I've told you, there's possibly hardly anyone on Twitter in Bugangari that is resident in Bugangari. So that means you're going to disenfranchise many people who would actually benefit from that information.
Not at all. First of all, citizens from Bugangari told you they can call. That's a very powerful channel. But also, too, through SSD, you don't need a smartphone because SMS can come. But also, number 3 is that you are forgetting the idea of leverage. That if GCIC gets out information, for instance, Chimp Reports or Ego Online or the New Vision picks it up, or this information goes to the Facebook page of a radio station in Rukunjiri or in Chiruhura, because most of these radio stations that interact with citizens daily don't have capability like NTV to get news everywhere. they use that leverage to actually translate that information and talk it out on the radio stations, and millions of citizens, the best friend of a farmer or the best friend of people in most of these areas is the radio. Then they get this information and interact with it. So information really moves. Once it is out, then there are different channels. Or somebody can pick it up and share a story at the dinner table or the kitchen table
or
about what is going on at the fireplace. Yeah.
Morrison, you see, your pedigree is one of a government apologist, someone that has been out there to defend government positions. How do we trust you that you will not be giving us spinned information to keep the relevance of the NRM in power, doing what they have been doing for the last 31 years? How do we trust you that you are a well-meaning government agency to share with us proper information without adding a tinge of spin to keep the NRM popular?
No, first of all, I'm a professional, I'm a publicly spirited person, but as you know, what you've just mentioned is perhaps your own personal view of what you'd call you'd call an apologist. But I have also met so many people who think I'm extremely very objective in dealing with these issues.
Especially recently, when you were making some personal comments of what you feel about the Kasim of the president to the government officials. I don't agree with you. I think that incentives are a good thing for anyone to work, but you seem to hold a different view, which is contrary to what many thought for a guy who works for government.
I actually haven't made an opinion on that matter public because I don't have full information. Because, as you know, it's very dangerous to start talking about things when you have not yet been fully briefed. But I will be conducting meetings around the issue to make sure that I have all the information before I can form an opinion. So I'm still holding on that.
Well, at least I know that you have shared privately with someone and who has also gone public about what he shared with you privately. That's the beauty of
Actually,
but away from that, let's go back
I can make a comment on that because what I did, I think it was yesterday, but one on Twitter, where I saw this public service ethic code that says actually on, I think it was page 7 or page 8, that actually bonuses are catered for within the law. So I asked Mpanga, I asked Nicholas Opio, and Hussein Kashirinji whether these bonuses, those who received the bonuses, are on the right side of the law. And there was a question mark, and I said, what are your thoughts? So I'm still in the process of gathering information and figuring out what's going on.
Let's go back to the Government Citizen Interaction Center, Morrison. You know, citizens are beginning to understand. You know, many times we want to deal with something that we can see, feel, and touch. Yeah. It was announced, you were appointed. So are we going to do the usual Ugandan thing of a launch or how is it going to start? Have you hit the ground running already? Or are you waiting for a formal flag off? How is it going to operate?
No, first of all...
And then, of course, the other question that you should tease along is, how are your operations going to run? Is it going to be a 24-hour operation? Or do we say we must contact you between 8 and 5 p.m.?
Yeah, first of all, we want to mostly run through the government official hours. That is something that we are working on. But also, too, is that we have started rolling out, explaining to people 900 and how it works, especially using online platform, which are less expensive because we don't consider ourselves extravagant. We try to make sure that we use these platforms. So. Yes, about a launch can happen, but we are, of course, already receiving between 100 and 120 calls per day, for example. So it's already happening. Citizens are already beginning to ask the queries, ask the questions, give us feedback on what is going right, on what is going wrong. And we are channeling most of this information to responsible, ministries, departments, and agencies of government to make sure that they respond quickly.
One of the biggest bottlenecks to government operations we know for a fact is the absence of funding.
Yes.
You are created in November, months after the financial year. Were you catered for in this financial year? How are you getting the funding to keep you running? Or are we going to wait for you to be crying here in a few weeks' time, complaining how you have not been given the promised SUV from government, the usual packs and all that, and then we put you again in the basket case of another good-intentioned idea that only went to sleep because there's no financing for it?
No, we believe that the financing shall be and will be provided. And as for now, it is being managed by the Ministry of ICT and its sister agency, NITA, which had provided for. Because you see, this took some time to plan. Because you don't run an operations, a call center, or you run a knowledge warehouse without the technology. You need, these computers, you need, software and hardware stuff. So this procurement process started almost 2 years ago. So it's a plan that has been on, it's just that has been, realized
So where would one physically find you? I mean, some of us don't want to send our thoughts online or whatever. We prefer interpersonal interactions. So if I want to walk up to you, Morrison Rwakakamba, and your citizens, government citizen interaction center per se, do I have a walk-in address, physical address where I can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. We are based on Parliamentary Avenue, the Ministry of ICT, the ground floor.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, that's quite very interesting.
Yes.
You may need to do some bit of branding for us to know where exactly you are located.
Absolutely.
And as we conclude, obviously, time is not always an ally on our part. Much of the queries that seem to come from citizens come under the shell of bitterness, anger, disappointment, and with a lot of bile in them. Yeah. And for the most part, you may find yourself in a situation where you need either to play counseling services, because people are depressed by the absence of services or the absence of government wherever they are. But also on the other hand, much of this will come to you perhaps even as personal attacks. How professionally are you prepared to ensure that you deal with the different emotions that come with people reporting? Because someone reporting a service gone bad will not come say, oh, hi Morrison, how are you doing? By the way, we don't have drugs in Buganda. They will just start with cussing you. And you don't want to receive that as a depressed citizen, someone talking to you badly.
No, we expect all that. So our agents, government communication agents, have gone through rigorous training, about, customer care, customer management, managing emotions, and making sure that they communicate directly and simply and in a very understandable way. So all that training has been happening. So we hope that our people are really ready to make sure that they respond. But also it is true that some of those queries, if you could say like 40% as of now from our analysis, are usually very personal. Somebody's looking for a job, or somebody has a domestic issue. But of course, we try to encourage people to say, the kind of things that GCIC we deal with are really public services.
And not personal issues.
No, not essentially personal issues. But if there are personal issues linked to public service or experience with the public service, that is when we are,
a personal issue, for example, someone looking for a job, and that's where now I bring in the elephant in the room. There's been accusations that go around that when these government agencies, new government platforms come in, usually we tend to see the staff role of people in there coming in from one region. Morrison, you can't wish away that, because we've seen some government agencies where you look at the role and it's people from the same region. How are you balancing the staffing of this center to ensure that it has a national character?
It
that
does.
We have got different people from different parts of this country, and not for affirmative action, saying, okay, you'll be a translator in Kupsabin. You are the only Sebein here, and your role is just to speak Kupsabin to people who are speaking to you. You are going to be the only Adong here because your role is to speak Leblango and things like that. So,
but you should start from that point, actually, that you are trying to circumvent around. Because you see, you cannot run the national, for instance, center or communication center if you're actually not nationally represented, unless if you have multilingual and skilled people. But for me, definitely, I do agree that in recruitment within the public service, it should be essentially point number one about merit. It shouldn't be about how you look like, how tall you are, or which region you come from, but it should be through a process of meritocracy that you can be able to get the job done. So nobody should be. So nobody. So nobody. To you, I'm sorry, I'm so nobody should be. Nobody should be discriminated. Nobody should be discriminated
but
against.
See people watching us this morning asking, where was the advert placed for the coordinator or the head of the government citizen interaction center for Morrison to have taken up this job? Couldn't it have been taken up by another person who has more credentials?
It's really because this was...
By the way, that's not saying you're not qualified. You just returned from Harvard, so clearly you have your credentials well fixed. But we are saying, were you subjected to a fair, open and transparent mode of secondment, recruitment, whatever it is that you got?
Yeah, and I think Ego Online asked me that question, which I answered. It's because this is a secondment. Like the president appoints presidential advisors, that the president appoints ministers, the president appoints. So constitutionally, the president has that capacity. So I was seconded by the president of the Republic of Uganda, and that's not in contradiction with the public service standing. And
even if it was not a good thing to have appointed you, Rwakakamba, from the Western
just
Uganda,
like the president appoints Ofono Pondo at the head of media center.
But again, also we can't blame you for it. You were simply appointed. If we are to blame anyone for nepotism, it should be the president. So
no, I would not want you to take that the president's door, because the president in the same spirit has appointed, Ofono Pondo has appointed. So many people from And if you look at even the list of the permanent secretaries, it's a cocktail of Ugandans. If you look at the cabinet, it's a cocktail of Ugandans. So I think it's, again, I don't want to call them apologies, because then I would sound like Vesige, because we're talking about apologies. So yeah, but I think that is a narrative that is not based on fact, because statistically, if you look at our public service, I would not say that it is regionally imbalanced. Perhaps the military, and I think that was in terms of the generals, and that was explained as being, historic, and that it is transforming and changing.
Morrison Rwakakamba, it's always a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Always an honor to be here.
We are looking very keenly with an eagle-eye view on the operations as the government Citizen Interaction Center, and we hope that for the most part, the iron curtain that has been between government operations and the citizens' feedback will certainly be pulled down faster than we thought it could, but without a doubt, we will continue to hold you as our only last card we have to play as citizens, if for nothing else, to get our sentiments felt and heard by government. Absolutely.
We shall be at your service.
There he goes, Morrison Rwakakamba, promising us, as always, very rosy picture. Like they say, the devil is in the details, so we can only give him some time. The year is beginning. Let's cut him some slack and listen to what he's got to say. Embrace the government Citizen Interaction Center provisions and see how best we can, as citizens, be involved to the extent to which we possibly can in how we are governed and how services, social and otherwise, are brought to the doorstep of where we need them. Good morning. We'll be right back after this short breather with more quality programming here on Morning at NTV. But for the big story, we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, same place, with yet another informative but also emotive subject as we start there. Happy New Year once again.